Hello, teachers. Today we're going to be talking about literacy in the lives of infants and toddlers. In this session, we will define literacy for infants and toddlers, discuss developmentally appropriate literacy strategies for caregivers and families, discuss criteria for choosing books for infants and toddlers, role play talking and reading with infants and toddlers, receive a reference list of books for infants and toddlers. Defining curriculum for infants and toddlers. Curriculum for infants and toddlers is what you do every day. It includes all routines and activities. It should be flexible and follow the child's leads. It is more individualized than preschool curriculum. Literacy research. Language, reading, and writing skills develop at the same time and are intimately linked. Early literacy development is a continuous developmental process that begins in the first years of life. Early literacy skills develop in real-life settings through positive interactions with literacy materials and other people. Activities. Activities like talking, singing, reading, storytelling, drawing, and writing all help the development of literacy. Repetition plays an important role for the babies. Respond when baby laughs or makes faces. Literacy theory. Early literacy theory emphasizes the more natural unfolding of skills through the enjoyment of books, the importance of positive interactions between young children and adults, and the critical role of literacy-rich experiences. Formal instruction pushes infants and toddlers to achieve adult models of literacy. How does literacy fit in? Receptive language. Talk to them. Brain research shows that the first 3 years are a window of opportunities for language development. By talking with infants and toddlers during daily routines and activities, caregivers expose them to new vocabulary and help wire their brain for language. How does literacy fit in? Expressive language. Hear and respond. The first time a newborn cries and has his or her needs met by a caregiver, the baby starts to learn that language is used to communicate with others. When a caregiver recognizes the very young child's attempts to communicate verbally and responds, the child is more likely to continue the attempts, which increases expressive language development. How does literacy fit in? Book handling, from mouthing to page turning. Infants use all of their senses to explore books and make sense of what they can do with them. Caregivers model books handling by reading out loud to infants and toddlers and letting them help to turn pages. Older infants and toddlers will start to handle books in more conventional ways by turning pages back and forth as they look at pictures. How does literacy fit in? Reading books, a new language. When caregivers read stories or say nursery rhymes, infants begin to hear a difference between conversational speech and book speech. When older infants and toddlers turn the pages of a book and babble, label pictures, tell a story, they are beginning to understand the function of books. More examples of how does literacy fit in. Fine motor skills. Practice using the hands. Infants and toddlers need opportunities throughout the day to explore with their hands. Caregivers who provide lots of hand exploration allow infants and toddlers to learn through their senses and develop the fine motor skills that will eventually be used in writing. How does literacy fit in? Daily routines. Language-rich environment. Caregivers who describe what they are doing during routines help infants and toddlers know what to expect and expose them to language throughout the day. Use of transition songs or rhymes during routines helps infants and toddlers discriminate book talk from conversation, and it is precursor to being able to listen to books read out loud. Caregivers who make favorite books available during diaper changes, naps, and other routines begin to instill the idea that reading is a source of enjoyment and should be a daily occurrence.
Hi there. Today I'm going to talk about early literacy and how to get your child off to a great start with learning to read. There's so much that kids can learn about books and reading before they even start school. As a parent, you know it's an important time, and you want to make sure your child starts the first day of kindergarten feeling confident, enthusiastic, and ready to learn. In this video, I'm going to talk about the building blocks of early literacy. First, I'll talk about the skills that your child can start building now. And second, I'll talk about how important it is to develop a love of books and reading. At the end of the video, I'll tell you about some easy, fun ways to get your child excited about books and learning to read. So let's start with 3 really important early literacy skills that will get your child ready to read. The first one is print awareness. Young children need to learn some basic things about how books work. Like, the funny little marks they see on the page are letters and words. Words are speech written down, and you read a book by turning pages from left to right. Your child will learn all of this by spending time with books, flipping the pages, looking at pictures, and listening to you read aloud. Then there's phonemic awareness. Before kids can learn to read, they need to be able to hear each sound in a spoken word. For example, the word big is made up of 3 sounds: b, I, g. Your child will learn about letter sounds in kindergarten, but he or she can start now by having fun with words and sounds, making up nonsense words and playing with rhymes. The third skill is recognizing letters. This usually begins with the alphabet song, when kids learn to name the letters. Then they start learning the shapes of the letters, beginning with the letters in their name. Some kids start to write letters as well. Your child doesn't need to learn the alphabet perfectly now, but it's great to get a head start. Building these 3 skills early on will have a big payoff in kindergarten, but keep in mind that the goal isn't for your child to master these skills right now. This stage is all about exposure. The best way for your child to learn is to do what comes naturally, to play, be curious, and have fun exploring books and language. So let's talk about developing a love of books and reading. The number 1 way to make this happen is to do a lot of reading aloud with your child. Your child will see books as a source of pleasure, and he or she will associate reading with fun and with warmth and family. There are so many wonderful picture books with beautiful illustrations, and your child will get so swept up by the stories that it feels like he or she is inside the book. It's an experience that your child will want to have again and again. Developing a love of reading has huge benefits. First, we know that it makes learning to read much easier and faster. Second, it will motivate your child to learn to read. Kids who love hearing stories want to be able to read them on their own. Finally, the icing on the cake is that by listening to stories now, your child will build comprehension and vocabulary before he or she even starts reading. You know you want your child to start kindergarten excited about books and ready to learn to read. So what can you do now? Well, the good news is that you don't have to be a teacher to help your child get off to a strong start. Here are some simple things that you, as a parent, can do better than anyone else. Make reading aloud a part of your routine. Do some reading every day. It helps to pick a regular time, like bedtime. Talk about what's happening in the story and in the pictures as you read. Follow your child's lead and keep it relaxed and fun. Make sure you have lots of books around the house so your child can read with you or look at books on his or her own. When you see your child reaching for books, you'll know he or she is on the way to being a reader. Make sure your child gets lots of experience with letters. Kids love toys that involve letters like puzzles, blocks, and magnets. Or you can draw big block letters for your child to color and decorate. When you're out and about, point out letters you see on signs. Have fun playing with words and sounds. You can talk about words that rhyme or play games. For example, you choose something nearby that starts with a certain sound like and then have your child guess what it is. The more you can make books and reading a part of your child's life now, the easier learning to read will be. Read together a lot. Have fun. And your child will head into kindergarten feeling confident and excited about learning to read. That's all for this time. If you learned something useful about early literacy from this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to our channel. To learn about our programs, visit readingprograms.org and leave a comment below. Is your child excited about learning to read? What are some of your child's favorite books? Thanks for joining me.
To choose books for a baby or toddler, we need to know about what the child can do.
Babies are born ready to learn, and babies and children learn best when they have a strong attachment with their parent or a loving caregiver. You are your child's most important and first teacher. One of the best ways to build that attachment is to incorporate a regular story time into your daily routine.
Speak to your baby, sing to your baby, and even touch a baby. Make it a game. It's a learning experience, but for your baby, they are absolute natural sponges, and the more stimulation and the more exciting and the more fun it is, the quicker they're going to learn, and you're going to benefit from that relationship you're establishing with your baby, because that also fosters close ties.
Books can also be a springboard for other kinds of language activities like telling stories and singing. So it's important to read, speak, and sing with your baby every day.
And even though you may not be the best singer, you may be out of tune, your baby's not going to care about that. Your baby is going to love any time that you spend that one-on-one time singing to them and reading to them. So you can be as silly as you want. You can, make up words, make up stories, but your baby is really going to enjoy that.
Babies shouldn't bond to TVs, they need to bond with their parents. And so spend the time reading. It's more than just the communication piece, it's the tactile piece, it's the interaction with your baby, it's the improvement of the vocabulary and the immediate feedback.
We know lots of parents out there struggle with their own literacy issues and may have difficulty reading themselves. But you don't actually have to know how to read yourself. You can use your imagination. You can describe pictures to your baby, just explaining to them about nature. Those kinds of things are things that all parents can do. And the more you speak to your baby, spend one-on-one time talking to them, explaining things to them, the better that they are going to be as they grow up, and they'll be better equipped then to start school.
So the advice is start young, keep the kids away from the TV, and let them develop a love for reading. It will serve them well in their immediate development, and quite candidly, they'll be healthier for it.
These are some facts on birth to 3 months old babies. They need head support when sitting on lap. They need to spend lots of time looking around. Their vision is fuzzy. They see best at 7 to 8 inches away from face. They notice patterns with large details. They prefer patterns with sharp contrast and colors. Grasping is a reflex, not a voluntary. They please respond to child's directed speech. First language is crying. Cooing is added by 3 months. Literacy strategies. Basic needs take up most of the newborn's daily schedule. It is difficult to hold a book and support the infant's head at the same time. Books can be displayed along the crib and on the floor where infants are active, but do not overstimulate by surrounding the baby with books. Caregivers can introduce book speech by reciting nursery rhymes and chants from memory. Choosing books for infants and toddlers. Birth to 3 months. Must be interesting visually. Large, simple pictures with a contrasting background. Example, black and white patterning. Books should stand up independently, cardboard. Fold-out pages can be stretched out to make one long panel. Four to 6 months. Able to reach and grasp, but thumb is not yet opposable. Will mouth everything, like to bang and wave objects, very confused on using their hands. Usually start to sit up by 6 months. Add constants to cooing. Make raspberry sounds. Can have conversations with caregivers by taking turns making sounds. Literacy strategies. Caregivers can now easily hold the baby and the book. Infants will explore the book with mouth and hands more often than visually. Caregivers can provide a toy for the infant's mouth and hands to increase the time spent looking at the book. Caregivers can add actions to the familiar nursery rhymes and chants to make the process an interactive game. Choosing books for infants and toddlers. 4 to 6 months. Cloth and vinyl books are most appropriate for this age because they are easy to grasp, can be mouthed, and are washable. Infants still enjoy simple pictures with contrasting backgrounds. Cloth books may fade during washing, so pick especially bright illustration. 7 to 9 months. Now able to use both hands to manipulate an object. can turn pages of certain type of books. Very interested in what object will do, leading to crushing, ripping, etc. Literacy strategies. Caregivers can now share a book with infants for longer time periods. Book reading is primarily labeling the pictures. Babies now enjoy books with rhythmic language, books with a story, and plot are not interesting yet. Infants may want to hold and explore the book during the reading. Caregivers should let the baby manipulate the book and continue to talk about the pictures, instead of trying to keep the book out of the baby's hands. Caregivers should not try to force the infant to let them finish the book. Focus on the process of exploration. Choosing books for infants and toddlers. 7 to 9 months. Choose cardboard books more often than cloth or vinyl. Cardboard pages are easier for the infants to turn independently. Books with paper pages will most likely be torn, crumbed, and mouthed and should not be used independently. Caregivers can read them aloud and store in a safe place. Little chunky books are designed for easy page turning. Nine to 12 months babies. Their fine motor skills become more developed. By 12 months, they can probably put large pegs in holes and pull pop pegs apart. They may start walking, or they use their first word. Receptive language is about 50 words. Expressive language is 1 to 2 words. They may bring books and toys to caregivers to initiate activity. They also start teething. Literacy strategies. Provide a teething ring to decrease book chewing for teething infants. Caregivers can follow a 4-step process to scaffold during the book reading. Number 1. Get the infant's attention. For example, you can say, "Look at it, look at that." Number 2. Ask a labeling question. For example, "What do you see?" Number 3. Wait for a response or provide a response if the baby does not answer in some way. Number 4. Provide feedback. Expand on the baby's response. Choosing books for infants and toddlers. 9 to 12 months. Infants are now more interested in the book's content than in physical properties. Choose books with pictures of objects and events that are familiar to the infant's world. Cardboard books are still the most appropriate for the infant's hands. Avoid stories for preschoolers replicated in cardboard form.
Hello, my name is Justine Smith and I'm the preschool publisher with a background in creating and writing books for babies, toddlers and preschoolers. Younger babies like books which have bold shapes and strong colours and vivid patterns in them. At this age, books are all about sharing, so always choose books which are light and easy to hold at the same time as your baby. Babies love to hear the sound of your voice. They like the rise and fall of your words. So choose text which you really enjoy reading aloud and your baby will love to listen to. As your baby gets older, choose books with plenty of gentle surprises in them to encourage curiosity. Big Simple Flaps are perfect for this. And also older babies really enjoy looking at pictures of babies, toddlers, children, animals and vehicles, which they find absolutely fascinating.
"12 to 18 months. Expressive language increases greatly. Very interested in naming things. By the age of 18 months, they may be using two-word sentences. The use of hollow phrases, one word to convey different meanings. They start using objects for pretend and play. Literacy strategies. Children of this age still like pictures to be named, and they will often repeat what the caregiver says. Caregivers can give more details and facts about the picture after labeling it. When reading predictable books, such as nursery rhymes, caregivers should slow down to give the child a chance to chime in. Caregivers should be flexible during the reading to allow the child to go find familiar objects that are in the book. Choosing books for infants and toddlers. 12 to 18 months. Infants now enjoy books with familiar characters and familiar roles. For example, mommies or daddies, other children, or animals. Since they are just beginning to sing, they may enjoy books with songs and musical books. By 18 months, toddlers may be interested in books with actual stories that relate to their own experience. Choose theme books with related pages and a few words, but no plot.
Reading together is a simple way to nurture and bond with your child. I'm Dr. Trudy Hecker, a pediatrician at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where we have a special program called Reach Out and Read to help children and parents discover the joy of reading together. This short video will help you pick out books and find ways to read with your older toddler who's between 2 and 3 years of age. The goal is for you and your toddler to have fun. Older toddlers can turn pages, so pick either board or paperback books. I'm sure you've started to notice your toddler's personality. He may have a favorite type of book or want to help you decide what to read. Try to keep books around the house in a place where your child can easily reach them so that he can choose what to read. Toddlers love to hear the same story over and over again. That may be tiring for you, but it really helps your child learn to enjoy books. Books that rhyme or have words that repeat are fun because they can help your child memorize the words. He will start saying the story along with you or will repeat parts of the book he likes best. Your child may have a favorite book or books. Here, a mom lets her older toddler pick out the book he wants to read. Be willing to read the same book over and over again. Your child will soon be able to complete sentences and rhymes in those familiar stories. Your child is adding 2 to 4 words per day to his vocabulary. In this scene, the mom and her toddler talk about the pictures in the book as they read. Encourage your child to name familiar objects in the book by asking questions like, "Where's the dog? What is that? Ooh, what color is that?" Toddlers love routines. Here the mom reads to her toddler during nap time. Try to add books to all of your daily routines like nap time, bath time, potty time, and bedtime. There are many ways you and your family can read and share books with your older toddler. You'll get a new book through Reach Out and Read at every Well Child checkup until your child is 5 years old. Feel free to remind your pediatrician or nurse practitioner about your Reach Out and Read book. And remember, you can read wherever you are, at the bus stop, in the park, at the library, even in the waiting room before a doctor's appointment. Have fun.
"19 to 30 months. Talks and sentences more frequently, is able to answer questions about recent events, interest on how things work increase, ask lots of why questions, pretend play often happens in sequences, often wants to be independent and dependent at the same time." Literacy strategies. Caregivers can have extensive book conversations with older toddlers. These conversations should relate what is happening in the book to the child's own experiences. Caregivers should ask questions that give the child opportunities to share thoughts and feelings. Choosing books for infants and toddlers. 19 to 30 months. Toddlers now enjoy actual stories about things that might be happening in their own lives. For example, using the potty, separation anxiety, bedtime, trying new foods. Choose books with pictures on every page and a small amount of text. Choose books with text closely related to the pictures. Choose predictable books so toddlers can guess what will happen next or chime in with repetitive phrases. On this video, it's going to show you some basic tips on how to read to babies and toddlers.
More book, please. I hear that multiple times a day from my 2-year-old. I'm going to share with you how I read to her from when she was a newborn to a toddler. Hi, I'm Ali. I'm a mum of 2. I've got a 2-year-old daughter and a newborn son. So from 2 weeks, I've started reading to my son. So in the hospital, we were given this book, Baby World, and it is a high contrast black and white book. So it's got a star and a chook, and then a cloud and a fish, palm tree, volcano, dog, bug. So when he's doing tummy time, I have this book open. His sister loves to put it on the dog and the bug. If I've got it on a different page, she'll actually change it to put on that page. So when he's on the floor, lying on his back, on his mat, I'll have that book open. If we're doing tummy time, I'll have the book open as well. Because newborns have really poor vision, they can't actually see colours that well. So that's why a black and white book is something that they can see and visualise. This book was actually a gift from the hospital, so I'm not sure where you buy the book. This book I got from the library, Baby Sees Lines and Dots. There's the high contrast book, black and white, yellow, white and black. More black and white, different patterns. Definitely check out your local library because this book doesn't last long and they're on to something else. So those high contrast books, I wouldn't buy too many of them if it was me. With my daughter, I did a lot of Google searches and one of them talked about having a bedtime routine. So we started a bedtime routine really early to try and get her used to going to bed to help with sleep. And one of the things, part of that routine was reading a book. When we first started reading books, it was just a little book with one image in it, like this book here. I did get some mixed responses from family members who thought that I was a bit crazy for reading a book to a newborn baby. However, once they saw that she actually started to pay attention to the pages turning and looking a bit more at the images, they were really quite blown away. That probably occurred from 6 weeks, where we started to notice that she was paying attention to the images on the page, and we continued to read a book before bed and the same before a nap. We made that part of the nap time routine as well. The best books in those early days were board books with, like I said, an image in the page, not too much going on, not too many images in the background, but a nice sturdy book that she could grab onto. So board books were definitely the best. And yes, this book is well loved. This is a great little set. So it's Spot's little learning library, and in it you get 4 books: Spot's first words, first colours, first shapes, and first numbers. And they're just nice, simple little books. I can still remember how excited it was when we went through her first words book and she was able to say each image. So from when she was probably about 3 months or so, I started to read storybooks to her. Board books once again, and storybooks. I'll share with you some of the books that I read to her. Here's one of the books that we read, Where's Mr. Dog? She was given this as a newborn present. So it's Where's Mr. Dog, and it's got felt in it to open and show images. So when we first started reading this, I would literally just say, where's Mrs. Cat? And then when she was able to, she'd open that, here she is, okay? And then we moved on to pointing out objects in there. So I'd be like, here's the ball, block, spinner. Oh, sorry. So here's a ball, here's a spinner, bringing in a lot more than just reading the story. And then when we'd read the book, I'd ask her, where's the block, where's the ball? The next stage with that, so this same book can be used multiple times, I would describe what we're seeing. So there's a red pram, there's a red felt, there's a black and white cat. Look, there it's whiskers, here it's tail. It's got 4 legs. Now, I wouldn't go through every part of the cat each time, but I just choose something to describe in a little bit more detail each time. One of the reasons I think I came onto this a little bit as well is my daughter would be happy for me to just read book after book after book. She just loves being read to. So I wanted to get her involved in the actual storybook as well. So by asking questions, by pointing things out, it made it more interactive. At night time, I tend to still just kind of read to her because it's part of the wind down period. But throughout the day when we're reading, I do like to ask her questions. So from 18 months, when I was reading a book, I would pause and not say a word. This is books that we'd read multiple times, and I'd give her the opportunity to say the word that was meant to be there. Especially rhyming books, she found it really quite easy to do, and asking lots of questions. So pointing to objects, saying what color is it, describing it in a lot more detail. And if there were birds in the sky, we'd count the birds. I'd say, let's count. And I would count 1, 2, 3, 4. I always set the scene before counting by saying, let's count, and then we'd count 1, 2, 3, 4. It didn't matter if she joined in. Sometimes she would with the counting, sometimes she wouldn't. But I always set the scene for what was coming. The other thing that I noticed with our counting is if I'd ask how many birds are on the page, or the common answer would be 2, and 2 went across the board. If I asked how many are there, there'd be 2. So that was just a developmental phase, and now not everything is the number 2. Another set of great books is these Osborne Touchy Feely books. That's Not My Bunny is the one we've got. Its tail's too fluffy. So it's just a great tactile book as well. And there's so many different types, so you'd be able to find one that interests your child. And once again, it's got some things in the background. So we've got flowers, we've got a mouse, we've got bees. So it's not just about the rabbit. So the book can really grow with the child. Big ears for a rabbit, whiskers, eyes. Dear Zoo, a really popular book in our house. It was definitely her favourite book when she was 1 year old, just because you've got those flaps to open and close. So with this book, I actually made a book basket. So getting some animals or some tiles that I had with pictures of animals on them. These ones I bought from Kmart. So I put the lion on the page with the lion, and we'd talk about that. And then I actually had them in the basket, and as we were reading through the book, I'd encourage her to get those out. So it's bringing those books to life.
And just last week, her favourite book at the moment is Little Blue Truck. So we had some toys, some farm animals and a barn from the toy library, and we had a blue truck downstairs. And so I set it up on a table and we acted out the book with those items. So the car was driving along the road on the book, the sheep was in the barn. It just brought it to life. So from 2 years, more and more, I don't say all the words, especially if it's a rhyming book. So the Little Blue Truck, if I say horn went,
beep,
engine,
purred,
friendliest,
sounds,
you ever,
heard.
well done. And so adding in more and more words, especially those rhyming words, and she loves it. And it's just bringing those books to life. So not just me passively reading to her all the time, but getting her interacting. Rhyming books are really helpful, and then pointing to images. So Where's the Green Sheep is a book that we've had for over 6 months, and I was just reading it too. I put it away for a month. I do like to rotate books so that they get an added interest when I bring them back again. And I brought this back, and the first page is, here is the blue sheep. And then the next page I went, here is the, she said, red sheep. And then I pointed to the next sheep and she said bath sheep. And we went through most of the book and she could name what each sheep was, which was just amazing because, like I said, we hadn't read it for a while. Obviously those synapses in her brain had connected in that period, and now that she was able to verbalize what she was seeing in that book. And now, as part of her bedtime routine as a 2-year-old, we read 2 books and a Bible story, and after we've read that, we keep the light on and she reads some books. So she'll read the Little Blue Truck to her teddy in bed. When I say reading, she'll tell the story of the Little Blue Truck to her teddy in bed. So she'll like, blue truck, she'll say the animals because I can hear her from my room. We're Going on a Bear Hunt is another great book because of the repetition. You keep saying, we're going on a bear hunt, we're going to catch a big one, what a beautiful day, we're not scared. And that just keeps repeating itself, as well as, we can't go over it, we can't go under it, oh no, we've got to go through it. So that's what we've done. Thanks for sticking around till the end. Bye.
Well, teachers, this concludes our little presentation on literacy in the lives of infants, toddlers, and older toddlers. If you have any questions, just feel free to contact me, Joana Ambriz, and you all have some happy holidays.